are back, and it's Monday, so let's jump right to it. Mischa Popoff is back tonight from the great state of Texas, and he's got some really interesting things to knock around here. What is our, at least traditionally, our most important societal asset? What is our future? Our children. And as all of you know by now, the Bolshevik communists have targeted our children right after our nuclear family. They went after the children then. They wrecked the family. We still have children. So they've gone after the children. With what? With the most evil thing you can do to a child's mind. You can shatter their heart, shatter their innocence, take away all the magic of childhood and learning about the planet by showing them what? Porn. It destroys them. And for all of you parents out there who have been through this and have tragically had that kind of a situation, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Once a child has seen porn, they are damaged. And in my view, they're damaged for life. Oh, you can say, well, they're going to grow up in it. Yeah, okay, well, that's still reproductive sex. It's for adults. Those children have been damaged. Maybe not as bad as a woman who has been raped, although it certainly is arguable that it could be. But the whole issue of porn and its access is, I think, one of the most horrible things that has been intentionally done to humanity by our enemies. And now they're looking forward with great glee and joy to 5G. And Mischa Popoff has been concerned about this as well, and he's working on a paper right now, but he agreed to come on the program tonight and talk about this with us for the first hour. Mischa, thank you for being here.
Yeah, you bet, Jeff, and great intro. Yeah, it's a tough subject.
Well, it's the truth, you know. It's the truth. I want to also point out that I've got something on the site here. All right, well, while I look this up, first of all, tell us what's your hopes and your goal, in fact, is regarding 5G and porn. Lay it out for us.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of conspiracy theories floating around about 5G. Just so people understand, the G, it's not even a technical term. Like with a computer, you know, you get so many megahertz in the processor, or the hard drive is so big. The G in 5G just stands for generation. So just so people understand it. Yeah, totally. And they say our first cell phones were 1G, but it was, or 2G. It doesn't even matter. Back when we had analog. So 5G doesn't really mean anything except more power, more speed. And some people say, you know, with that in mind, well, hey, guess what? In Tokyo, they've got 7G. So what are you worried about? But here's the thing. So I just want to have this to preface the issue before we get to porn. And they've been doing experiments since the 1970s, Jeff, where they can put like a motorbike helmet on your head and it has diodes in it.
Yeah.
And they can control your thoughts. This is not conspiracy. Yeah.
No.
And so there's old video, and you can tell it's VHS, it's so old, but it's available on YouTube, where a patient is sitting in a dark experiment room, and he swears someone just came in. Well, no one came in. They made him think that. Now here again, we're not in the realm of conspiracy. Jump forward to the first Gulf War, not the second, the first Gulf War. It turns out now it's been declassified. They were doing that remotely. And, of course, it's very haphazard, but you're in war, so who cares? And they would make the enemy think that someone was in their barracks, and they'd all run out and drop their guns, you know. Or not their barracks, sorry, but a hardened place where soldiers are on the front line. Yeah, because we remember back to the first Gulf War, there were thousands of prisoners just giving up. And we all thought, the way CNN told us was, wow, they love America.
You know,
No.
CNN actually did try to make that kind of an asinine argument. You're right.
Yeah.
Explanation. No. You tell us what happened. Huh.
Yeah, they can use it's directed microwave. And again, even 60 Minutes did a thing on this just a few years ago for crowd control. Right here in America, they can aim a dish at you, and you'd swear your skin is literally on fire. And they show that it's perfectly harmless. As soon as you step out of the beam of microwaves, the sensation goes away, and there's no lasting effect. So isn't this wonderful? It's a non-harmful way to control crowds. So you can begin to see all the pieces in place for remote mind control. And so what would they do with this? Well, once we get into the realm of pornography, we have to accept that right now, without 5G and without any kind of like conspiratorial mind control, like suggestive mind control, right now, kids, like in high school, they say, I've seen stats like 80% of boys are looking at pornography on their handheld devices.
Wait. Where is this? Where is this? In what age group?
Oh, high school.
And 80 up to 80% of them are porn addicts already.
Yes, and can I add to that? I volunteer in the middle school ministry at my church, and I've caught the kids. They're not even in high school yet, Jeff, and they're looking at horrible stuff. And I say, whoa, what are you guys doing? And of course, I tell their parents they don't know what to do. The days of the parental control that you maybe had on your cable TV package, that's gone. That's just like washed away in the flood. There is no way to control this. So now we're in the realm of the totally legitimate. You don't have to imagine anything conspiratorial or someone aiming a beam at your kid. Right now, boys especially are all looking at pornography, and it's just normal. It's like you're not the normal kid if you're not doing it.
Got it. So we got peer pressure, we have commonality, we have all of those things at work. So it's okay for the kids to do it because everyone else is. I get you.
Yep. And now you throw in sex ed, which in our interview about the article I wrote for Culture Wars. It's my own experience from Canada. It was 10 years ago. Our 5-year-old daughter was exposed to sex education in kindergarten. And now you've got Macron over in France, a childless guy who used to work for Goldman Sachs, married to a woman 25 years older than him. He's now going to make preschool mandatory, Jeff. Now stop and think. Why? Do they want French kids? Or are they going to, be better engineers when they grow up? Why would you want kids why would you make that mandatory? Well, there's only one reason, and it's sex ed. Because then, as you said in the intro, it destroys the child's mind. Now, I don't want to get too far into the conspiratorial stuff. There's a lot of it on the internet, and I don't know how to weigh it out. I would say this, though, Jeff, you can't exclude it. You can't say, 5G is just faster network coverage. Yeah, sure it is, but it opens us up to the possibility of what's basically directed energy. And even if people, I can just imagine half your listeners thinking, oh boy, rolling your eyes, here we go. Well then fine, then don't even go into that. Just look right now at any handheld device, any 3 or 4G handheld device in the hands of a young boy. And I admit, I looked at Playboy magazine when I was a teenager. I would sneak into my uncle's room. He was a bachelor, and I knew where he kept them. But this is different. This is it's like live TV. You can look at women getting undressed, and men and women having sex, or men having sex. And then here's perhaps the final piece to the puzzle. Teachers, and I'm again speaking from first-hand experience in Canada. Teachers are promoting the use of pornography as part of the sex ed curriculum. So to help children determine their sexuality and their gender. And the only saving grace is that they have the decency to withhold that until grade 5. And by grade 6, kids in Canada have learned everything. And so I've heard it's sort of the same for Washington, Oregon, California as well. They've learned everything. And Jeff, I'm not going to get into lurid graphic detail, but I mean everything. I mean, there's nothing left to the imagination except bestiality. That's not being taught, but it bears mentioning that Canada's current Liberal government recently struck down bestiality.
They've legalized it in many countries.
Yeah. And in Canada, America's largest trading partner, yes, bestiality is now legal, just like marijuana.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I don't hold out any hope that this is going to be reversed because it's an agenda-driven item, like Agenda 21. This is an item being forced on the people to really break them down and destroy their inner core. No discipline, no accountability, no boundaries, no parameters. Now, I'm told, I don't go out and do social things, but I'm told that young women period, have absolutely no hesitation anymore. They just do whatever they want to do. Now, that's supposedly, when I was brought up, the most sacred, I'm not being corny, special, wonderful gift a woman can give a man. That kind of closeness, that kind of companionship, that kind of bonding. Now, it's like shaking hands or offering somebody a stick of gum out of a pack. It's nothing. This is what I hear. And I suppose it's accurate. And all I can say is, once everything has been cheapened to that extent, there's no going back. And this reminds me of what I heard a couple of younger people talking. These are men, 25-ish, 26. And the one guy says, yeah, what do you want to do? The other guy says, I don't care. He says, hey, how about maybe we should talk about taking a trip, going to visit Thailand or something. The guy says, why bother? I'm going to be dead before I'm 30 anyway. It doesn't matter. The point is, there's a lack of vision in young people. A lot of them have quit. They're expecting to die young. They're expecting to be poor. They're expecting to be diseased at some point. Not all of them, and many of the people who are young listening to this program, and listening often, are the opposite of that. I know that. There's some wonderful people out there. But they'll know, as well as anyone, that the mass has been degraded and deconstructed and taken down to where the mass now doesn't really care about much except a moment-to-moment good time. And that's sad to me. Go ahead. I don't mean to go on and on about this, but...
Oh, not at all. Let's go back to 1996 when we had a philanderer in the White House, a convicted rapist. Let's face it. I mean,
he's a rapist. He's a sexual deviant. Should be in prison right now.
Yeah, and he was impeached in spite of Democrat support in the Senate, and he was disbarred by the Arkansas Bar Association. And he paid out $800,000 to one of his accusers. So there we are with President Clinton and Al Gore as his sidekick. And then what did we get in 1996, Jeff? We've got the Communications Decency Act. And you see, the way this works now is as long as you give something the right title, the morons in both houses will pass it. So who could oppose something like that, the Communications Decency Act? And it actually worked for a little while. It forced, imagine what internet porn was like back in 1996. Well, I'll tell you, because I worked up in Canada, I worked for the government up there, BC Hydro, and they had some real cutting-edge computer technology in the early 90s. And some of the computer geeks there, they had some early versions of internet porn, and it was basically repeating images that would just It was basically mock video. It was like 3 or 4 images of a nude woman stuck together so it looked like she was moving. And now you can send those on a cell phone as a joke to a friend, whether it's a dog catching a beach ball or whatever. It's just that there's a name for them. I forget. But that was the state of internet porn back in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, the Communications Decency Act, it said things like, well, if you're going to run an internet, I mean, they didn't dream of trying to stop this. So
get the name. Hold on. The name, the Communications Decency Act. Who would oppose that on its face? Sounds right. Sounds fine, doesn't it?
Totally. Has the word decency in it. And, Jeff, not only that, it's communication. So you and I are communicating right now. Who on this earth would stop that? Isn't that free speech? Isn't that the First Amendment? It's even more important than the Second Amendment. So communications. Well, guess what? People having sex on videotape turns out to be communication. And of course, Larry Flint had already won his case. All manner of smut was deemed free speech by the highest court in the land.
Oh, of course. So hold on. Let me underscore that. Porn is now free speech, correct?
Yep.
All right,
it's
free speech. Now, if you're talking geopolitically, there really isn't a lot of free speech if you talk about certain subjects. But for porn, it's ironclad free speech.
You got it. And that is now the root of our freedom. That we can look at porn, we can participate in porn, and any number of people can provide us with porn.
It's just
sacred.
Decency, Mischa. It's decency.
That's right. That's
decency.
Right. Yeah. So here we go. This goes through both houses. The president signs it. Now, I will say back then, because of the primitive nature of the technology, they had things like if you were running such a site, you had to put the first page had to ask the user, are you 18? And you had a choice to click yes or no. Well, what 14-year-old boy isn't going to lie? I mean, who would ever find out? But at least, back then with that primitive technology, there were a few little, I don't want to call them stumbling blocks, but they were sort of like speed bumps that were written into this act. That would sort of slow down a kid maybe if he didn't, if he didn't have much time, if he had stuck on, because remember, no one had computers back then, just the parents would have had the computer. So if a boy had snuck onto the computer, that might have been enough to deter him. A page comes up and kind of flashing, it looks ominous, and it says, danger, are you 18? And so there you go. Okay, well, fast forward. I mean, you don't even have to get too far into the next century, the thousands. And of course, Google bought out Alta Vista, and Facebook buys out MySpace, and they paid ungodly sums for it because they can just print all the money they want. Actually, I think it was Rupert Murdoch, the owner of Fox News, was involved in that the buyout of Alta Vista, which at the time was the largest search engine in the world. Yeah. And so everyone thinks, Google, it's a better search engine. No, it's not. It's the search engine they wanted. And it's the search engine that, first of all, spies on you, but also it'll just feed kids all the porn they want. Like I said earlier, Jeff, all the parental controls, even if they're still used for formality,
they're easily overridden. No, they're gone. And
they've really been swept away.
Well, there's freedom of speech. You can't put up barriers. Goodness.
Exactly. So that's all bad enough. But then, like I said, you add in teachers promoting this as part of a curriculum. And you think of, you said earlier that the kids have lost sort of the meaning in their life. And I'll never own my own home. I'll never have a family. They're going to live fast and hard like James Dean did and go out in a blaze of glory. That's their plan. And then you throw in if not just one of the most important figures in their life, authority figures, their teacher. In some cases, Jeff, it's the only one. Because who else is there? Like your favorite radio host, a priest? Forget it. Kids aren't interested in that. So that's it. Their teacher, their third period sex ed teacher, that's like a demigod to them. And that teacher shows them how to access porn. And they probably already know, but now he legitimizes it.
Right. Hold on a minute. We have to pause. And Mischa hasn't even mentioned this issue of putting homosexuality in elementary school textbooks, if they even have textbooks anymore. Hold on a minute. Right back. Okay, welcome back with Mischa Popoff again tonight, a man for all seasons, does so many different things. Started out talking to us about organic foods and the myth therein. And there's a lot of it, myth-wise. Now this, I want to ask all of you again. I'd like to ask any of you who have had children of your own and who remember what it was like being a child, to try to imagine what a 5, 6, 7-year-old, 4-year-old, 8 or 9-year-old will go through once they've seen hardcore porn. Emotionally, mentally, how are they going to process that? And this happens in school and classrooms now. These kids have their wonderful parents buy these 8-year-old, 7-year-olds their own little smartphones. Isn't that cool? Cool. Yes, very cool. The damage done to the child's psyche is irreparable. You can't take the images out. They're in there. I just think the theft of childhood is next to murdering a child, and in a way there's a similarity. The greatest sin, perhaps crime, that humans can perpetrate on other humans. Maybe I'm sounding corny and old-fashioned, but that's okay with me. That's the way I see it. Mischa, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I think corny and old-fashioned is perfect for kids. I mean, I don't know whether kids should start being introduced to a sort of sex ed curriculum at the age of 16. I tend to think 18 would be better. My mom and dad told me they didn't hear anything about sex ed or the pill until they got to college. And it's just working its way down.
That's true. They didn't hear it. That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
And there weren't 18 million pregnancies. It just didn't happen. People were taught, and they respected themselves enough to say no. Remember that old thing? Just say no to drugs. Just say no. No, raging hormones. Can't do it. No more. It's okay in the movies, so it's okay with me.
Yeah. The excuse now, Jeff, is, well, they're going to do it anyway. We might as well teach them how to do it safely.
That's disgusting. I know.
Yeah, and then the myth, and we'll get into textbooks like you alluded to just before the break, but the myth is this thin layer of rubber that you put on, called a prophylactic or a condom. That's all you need. That makes it safe. And we should mention, by the way, I discovered this in writing the article for Culture Wars about this, that to their credit, the FDA, which is the government body that regulates condoms, they do not recommend them for gay sex. In other words, for sodomy. Want to be careful which terms we throw here tonight, even though I know.
What the deal is with latex, and I put out one of the first books on AIDS in the early 90s. Latex under magnification is full of holes. It just is. You magnify anything enough, and you're going to find holes. Well, the holes in latex. Now think about this. Are 50 times larger in diameter. This is the smallest hole in latex. 50 times larger than the AIDS virus. It goes right through it. Couldn't care less. It's like shooting a BB gun through a tennis net.
Yeah. Well, and that might explain, Jeff, why the gay community, as they're called, why the gay community really has just decided to forego condom. I mean, really, they're into this whole thing where, hey, if you get AIDS, that's life. It's part of the live fast and die young philosophy.
Right.
They've really embraced that. And yet, though, let's get back to the textbooks and elementary school. Never mind college, never mind high school. But so there's my daughter. My wife and my daughter entering kindergarten in Canada. And remember, this was 10 years ago, so this is happening all over the States now.
Yeah.
And what we encountered there, this is the acronym your listeners will want to watch out for, is the SOGI program, SOGI. And I don't know if it started in Canada, but I had not heard hide nor hair of it down here in Texas when we moved down here 6 years ago. But now it's everywhere. SOGI stands for Sexual Orientation and Gender Identity. So you almost, I mean, if you were, I guess if you just fell off the turnip truck, you could almost think, oh, well, okay, they're going to let my kid know that there's some people have different sexual orientation, and I'm not okay with it, but I guess there's some people.
Over 50 different transgender identities now that are available for your choice. Huh.
Yeah, and over 100 sexual preferences. So once you determine your...
Is that right, 100?
Yes, it's over 100 now. So you're right, it's still around 50 for what you are, and then it's over 100 for what flavor of ice cream you prefer.
No, well, that's just free speech. Come on, Mischa, no problem.
Yeah, it's right. It's communication, right?
That's right.
Right, I forgot. So the SOGI program in kindergarten, I can attest, it included graphic line drawings of naked boys and girls. Now, why would the kindergarten kids need to know what the opposite sex looks like? But take that as your baseline. That's kindergarten. And people might remember Obama referring to age-appropriate sex education. Well, they can qualify it any way they like, but it's low-resolution pornography is what it is.
That's right.
Because it'll strike you. It's like one of the justices back during the Larry Flint trial with the Supreme Court. One justice, I forget which one it was, but he actually said, look, we don't need a definition of pornography because we all know what it is when we see it. You know,
oh, really?
And yeah, it's just so straightforward. Like, you know, even some Renaissance painting, you know, sometimes they're a bit racy.
I know. And, it's look, this whole thing is so completely, I'm sorry to say it, I'm accepting people who still have their moral scruples together. The whole thing for the masses, though, it's gone. It's over. They've been turned loose. There's no more accountability, no more responsibility. If it feels good, do it, right? Never mind pelvic diseases. God knows how many of those there are. These people are walking STD factories, many of them. Yeah. And they have no problem sharing it.
Yeah, well, they had to pretty much ban smoking, didn't they? Now, I'm not a fan of smoking tobacco, but they had to ban that for the good of everyone's health. You know, secondhand smoke. They force us to wear seat belts. And if you bring a kid home from the hospital, like my wife and I did 3 times, they won't even let you leave unless you have a approved child seat. Heaven forbid you have one that's from last year, because there's a little imprint on the side that shows the date. They say, no, sorry. So all those things are, you know, they're sort of based in common sense, and sometimes they're a little over the top. But yeah, Jeff, when it comes to sex, oh, wow, have at her. And in the curriculum, the SOGI curriculum, they actually explain how medical science has advanced to the point where diseases like venereal disease and syphilis that used to kill people, well, you can now get a dose of antibiotics. And
that's changing too. There's a lot of resistant strains now that are not gonorrhea. There's an absolutely, totally resistant strain of that. So these bugs, these bacteria, are learning how to defeat antibiotics, and we are now past the age of antibiotics. So I'm not going to say that Allison C will kill it, cure it, take care of it, but if it were me and I got sick, I'd sure as heck have some around. I'd give that a big try.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we can assume that all the solutions to our problems exist in nature. I mean, God created everything, so for every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction.
Right.
We just have to find it. But so that's that's what's happening in the schools. Now, I want to throw something else out from the popular culture, and that's a little magazine. I think I mentioned it last time I was on your show, and it's Teen Vogue. Now, Vogue magazine is the high end of fashion magazines. I mean, it's like the haute cuisine version of Cosmopolitan that we've all seen on the
Teen Vogue. Teen Vogue. Okay.
Yeah. So they make the Teen Vogue version of Vogue magazine, and they are now. We have to say that the graphic term, or none of this will make sense. So, but you please just interrupt me. If they actually did an article explaining how this is to teenage girls, how to have anal sex with their boyfriend. Because then you don't get pregnant.
Oh, safe sex. I know that. I know.
Yeah,
I know.
it's safe.
All right, let me talk. Let me talk about physiology a little bit. The rectal wall tissue is 2 to 3 cells thick. It tears easily. The walls of the vaginal tissue are about 20 to 30 cells thick. They're tough as nails. That's what they're designed to withstand. So good luck with the other way. You're going to end up tearing. You're going to get an infection. Anything can happen. IBS, Crohn's can develop. You get bacteria working in there. You could die. All right?
Yeah.
Simple. And keep in mind also that HIV is spread through all body fluids. All body fluids. Tears, saliva. You kiss somebody, you can infect them with AIDS, right? And when you become infected with HIV, you have AIDS. There's no going back. You have AIDS. You can get it from a kiss, a wet kiss. Now, some of you don't know this, but it's the truth. And the reason it's the truth is because everyone who is still above room temperature walking has 50% of them have blood and blood products in their saliva at all times. Blood is a primary transmitter of the AIDS virus. It's in the blood. It's in the saliva from poor gum health, right? You don't brush your teeth, you get gingivitis, you got this. Your gums bleed microscopically all the time into your saliva. So when you kiss somebody, you're putting blood in their mouth. They're ingesting your blood and anything that comes along with it, such as viruses and bacteria. If you brush your teeth or kiss someone vigorously, the number of people who test for having blood and blood products in their saliva is over 90%. Just keep this in mind. This is medical scientific fact. That's how you can spread AIDS with a kiss.
And you'd think this would be part of the curriculum, wouldn't it, Jeff?
Nobody knows it. No, I was right. I wrote about it 1992, 91, 92. Nobody talks about it.
I mean, I've even heard of...
It's not politically correct, Mischa.
Right, and yet they're teaching all manner of graphic, illustrative garbage to our kids, but they won't tell them the downside. So for instance, that Teen Vogue article, it doesn't warn girls that you can become incontinent from having too much anal sex. You can lose control over your bowels. And
good luck. Yeah, you'll be wearing a diaper, sure. Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or, as I've heard, gay prostitutes, they'll put a tampon up there. Mm-hmm. But now to speak to what you were saying about the thickness of the cell wall, of course, yes, it's part of your digestive system, the rectum and the anus. It's still, that's part of it. So it's made to absorb food. Whereas, as you correctly point out, a vagina with literally 10 times the cell wall thickness, it's made not just for sex.
Right.
It's made to pass a baby through it, maybe once or twice or hopefully 3 or 4 times in a woman's lifetime. Which, by
Keep
the way,
in mind also the colon is referred to the second lung of the body because it uptakes things. It's it's part of your digestive tract.
Yeah,
and that's right. Coffee enemas, huh? Remember all that?
Yeah.
Goes right through the cell walls in your lower digestive tract into the bloodstream. Boom.
Exactly. That's why suppositories are commonly used.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, because it's part of the
very
digestive
effective,
system.
instant access, and it's easy. You got it.
Yeah. But there they are, teaching kids that it's a sex organ. And again, it's from what in some kids' life is the only authority figure left. The parents are divorced. The kid hasn't been to church ever except for grandma's funeral.
Right.
He doesn't go to Cub Scouts anymore. And there's this teacher who, goodness, the teacher might be gay too, and have an eye on the kids. And we just have no problem with that. Now, people are rightly concerned about the whole the gay priest issue. Why is no one concerned about gay teachers? It's common. We know there have been many cases of sexual abuse, but it's always the priests who make the front page, and rightly so. They deserve to be on the front page if they're molesting kids. But teachers, have you noticed, Jeff? It's more newsworthy. It'll make national news, in other words, when it's a female teacher who had sex with a 14-year-old boy. There's kind of a lascivious quality to the story, even though, of course, Fox News never stoops to that level. They report it as straight news. But they're doing it because, guys who watch football all weekend, they think, wow, what a lucky kid. He got to have sex with his teacher when he was just 14. But for every female teacher who seduces a young boy, there's like 10 or 12 either gay teachers who seduce the same sex or straight men who seduce young girls. And none of that makes the news.
Right.
Nowhere near as much as the priest,
No, the Catholic Church and, in fact, other priests organized, institutionalized pedophilia for nearly 2,000 years. That's what it is.
They did, yeah. And they took something holy of how celibacy and used it as a weapon, really, because you can imagine a lot of young men probably got into the priesthood, for the right reason, but then once they were in there, they were bombarded with
That's right.
the pressures of the world. And in fact, Dr. E. Michael Jones, who edits Culture Wars, he tells about how in the 70s, some Jewish psychologists were hired to provide a psychology test to the Roman Catholic clergy. And in the stages of psychological development, the sixth one was to have sex.
Uh-huh.
So all of the Catholic clergy failed because they're supposed to all be celibate. Well, the Catholic, the papacy should have said, well, so what? So we failed. We passed all the other ones. We still get whatever, an A plus. But this had a deleterious effect on the mind of the clergy, because instead of thinking they were doing something holy by remaining celibate, they thought they were inadequate in some way. And it was sort of a license for some of them to start fooling around to hear the story told. So that became the undoing of what you've already accurately said for centuries was not pure. There was already a lot of hanky-panky going on, but it was really in the 70s where the whole thing just blew up, and there's been nothing but cover-ups ever since. And can we come to the present with the current Pope, Pope Francis? Well, he recently told, it must have been a setup, Jeff. A gay man went up to him when he was having a public communication, I guess, for lack of a better word. Yeah. And he said, I'm gay. What's going to happen to me, Your Holiness? And it's quoted. There's no arguing it. He said, God made you the way you are, and he loves you the way you are. And there's like 3 or 4 lies piled into that one little sentence. And just imagine this guy, Jeff, there he's standing before the pontificate. And maybe you or I wouldn't care so much if we were standing in front of the Pope, because we'd see right through all of the pomp and circumstance. But there's this guy, he must have been a Catholic, and he felt guilty. And he goes before the top dog. And instead of being told, hey, God loves you, and we're going to help you, this perversion behind you so you can get on with your life. Instead, he condones it. He says, hey, good for you. No problems there. God loves you just the way you are. He made you this way. Wow. Now, I've had some people assure me that, Mischa, some people are gay. I'm not sure if I agree with that. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say, if there are such people who are genuinely gay, I'm going to say 3/4 of the rest of gay people were simply abused or have some trauma in their life that they've never dealt with. And if we pat them on the head and say, hey, you're gay, I'm going to walk in the gay pride parade with you, and basically applaud your lifestyle, we're denying them their salvation. We're denying them their healing. And we're condemning them. And probably not just condemning them spiritually, but as you alluded to, we're condemning them probably to a horrific death through some sexually transmitted disease.
Certainly happens. There, like I say, people walking around. You go out in public, and maybe every other person has an STD now. It's all over the map. It's a pandemic. Sexually transmitted diseases. Many of the organisms involved are resistant to bacteria. I mean, antibiotics. The bacteria refuse. They've outsmarted them. So forget it. You got a bacteria, you may be stuck with it for life. And that's sad, but that's the truth. And people don't want to hear it. They just don't. And if you take antibiotics, you have just wiped out, on average, if you're an adult, 7 pounds of digestive bacteria, good bacteria, in your digestive system. It's gone. So you've got to rebuild that whole system. You keep taking antibiotics, you got no chance. So, all of a sudden you're not digesting food, you're not getting the nutrients from it, it passes right on through. What are you doing? You eat more because your brain is telling you, I'm not getting enough nutrients. I've wiped out my digestive bacteria. The food isn't being broken down. The nutrients aren't being extracted. So the brain says, eat more, eat more. And of course, we know that the average American diet is nothing but a fat maker. You'll be fat so fast you won't even know what hit you. So that's another downside of antibiotic use, which people don't talk about.
Yeah. You know, it's funny, antibiotics were discovered, I believe it was, if I got the year right, it's 1928.
Something like that.
But they were not, they were so rarely used. It was the tragedy of World War II with all the injured soldiers.
Right.
And of course, both sides had them, the Japanese, the Germans, and all the Allies. And so suddenly there was a flood of, you hear about the war economy. There were no cars built during the Second World War because they converted all the factories to munitions and aircraft manufacture. Well, same in medicine. Suddenly there was this boom. If you ran a pharmaceutical company, they'd hand you the patent for the first couple of antibiotics known, penicillin being the first. And yeah, there was millions of dollars made, and that was probably the only legitimate use of antibiotics on injured soldiers, because when you get body parts blown off in a battlefield, with mud and feces and blood everywhere, well, yeah, that guy's probably going to need a good dose of antibiotics.
Sure.
Then it just took off after the war. It just sort of stuck. We couldn't shake it. This great benefit that was discovered just became normalized throughout. So everyone with the sniffles went for antibiotics, and you're quite right. You said earlier we're almost in a post-antibiotic stage now.
I think we are. I really think we are.
Mostly
all right.
Lost their efficacy.
Yeah. Well, all right. We got to wrap it up. Listen, I don't know if we're going to get the other guest tonight, who was due on second hour. So can you hang on? What I'd like to do the next hour is go through the organic food, vegan lifestyle again.
Okay. Well, you try to get them if you get them, sure. But otherwise, I'm always happy to discuss.
Well, thank you. Yeah,
food.
This is important, and you are such an expert in the field, and I'm an organic vegan, and a lot of listeners are. So, there's a story today. The Queen steps in when Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, whatever her name is, have announced they're going to raise their baby vegan. That flipped the queen out. So it gets crazier. All right. If we talk on the other side of the hour, looking forward to it. If not, thank you for being here, Mischa. I appreciate it as always.
Jeff.
Okay.
You bet. Anytime. I'll wait.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay. Mischa Popoff. And we may be back with Mischa. We may not. We'll see. And hang in there. We shall continue.